Hello and welcome to our presentation, Smarter by Design, leveraging UDL and AI for more accessible and flexible learning. Our agenda today that we're going to cover is what is UDL and how does it relate to accessibility? Then we're going to discuss how Purdue University uses AI to help with accessibility related tasks. And then we're going to close things out with practical strategies for accessible content in D2L Brightspace and beyond. I am Jenny Monarch McGuire. I'm an educational technology consultant at Purdue University. And with me presenting today is Alex Mason, who is an assistive technology specialist also at Purdue University. We are both part of the consulting and training team at Purdue University, and our team specializes in supporting the tool Brightspace as well as other technology tools that are enterprise level. We also offer lots of workshops and trainings on accessibility, as well as all those tools that we support. We also offer consultations, and as I mentioned before, accessibility is part of what we do on our team and helping support the faculty at Purdue University. And another thing that we do, this is specific to the consultants on the team, but we offer daily drop-in help sessions, which is something where faculty can kind of just come to like open office hours. And that has been one of the most successful ways that we support technology at Purdue University.
All right, thank you, Jenny. So I'm going to start here with our first topic. What is UDL and how does it relate to accessibility? So UDL stands for Universal Design for Learning. And from CAS.org, the definition of universal design is that UDL is a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning based on what we know about the human brain. Each brain is made of billions of interconnected neurons that form unique pathways. So consider this like fingerprints. No two brains are alike. And so we have to take this as we create the content for, all of our learners, our students. We have to take this mindset with us as we're, constructing and creating these materials. So there are three principles of universal design for learning. And so these are engagement, representation, and then action and expression. And I'm going to dive in just a little bit to each of these just to give a little more background, as well as some examples of kind of what each of these means. So as we're thinking about creating these materials, I know part of what we're going to talk about today is also kind of utilizing AI, to help in creating these materials. But yeah, so we're going to start off with engagement. So engagement is how we provide choices and autonomy. So we kind of let the students, quote unquote, choose their own adventure, say for assignments. So an example would be to provide options to complete an assignment. So for instance, you could give students the option to, for the same assignment, either they could write an essay, maybe they could create some sort of multimedia, presentation, maybe like a video or something. Or a number of other options. And so these are all things that, you can definitely gauge and get a sense for, how the students, are learning about what, whatever subject matter that you're teaching. And so there are ways to, depending on, which choice they choose, that you could still kind of judge, how well they know that material. So the second principle is representation. And so this is where we deliver the content in multiple formats to allow students the option to work with materials in a way that works best for them. And so an example of this is providing multiple file formats of that same document. So, say on Brightspace, if you provide like a Microsoft Word file, maybe you also want to provide them a PDF or maybe an EPUB file, because depending on the file format, students are going to be able to engage with these materials in the way that suits them the best, that works best for them. And we can kind of think of students may be using assistive technologies, screen readers to access this content. And so providing more options for them to access the content will go a long way in providing accessibility. And then the third principle is action and expression. And so action and expression is where we offer choices and autonomy in how students communicate their knowledge of a subject. And so I always kind of say this principle is the one, we think about assessments. So you have your midterms and your final exams. And so oftentimes we think of, Scantron, those bubble sheet exams, right? I feel like everyone hates those, but maybe some people don't. But this is just saying that, to provide multiple assessment options. So, you could provide a Scantron option, exam option, maybe offer, they could take an essay exam, or again, we kind of go back to the multimedia presentation. And so there are always going to be multiple ways that students can kind of display their knowledge of the content, but it does not have to just be one way. And so again, to go back to, all learners are diverse, everyone's brain works differently, providing all these multiple, options in all these principles of UDL, providing these multiple options will go a long way in, ensuring that students can learn in their own, specific way. So, how does Purdue University use AI to help with accessibility related tasks? And so, as Purdue has worked towards, the ADA Title II compliance, which we know has been extended now, but as we've been working with faculty and other staff across campus, we've really had to try to think outside the box. We've tried, to find ways that we can use AI to help with accessibility in general, especially because time and money is a thing, a very real thing. And so here are just a couple ways we've kind of done that. So number one, document remediation. And so when I say document remediation, I mean, say you have a PDF that is, not tagged correctly, missing alternative text, et cetera, et cetera. You kind of one of the things that we've found at Purdue is that you can actually feed these files into different AI tools. But and what I have noted here is that all AI tools are different. And so through this whole process of ensuring that materials are, ADA compliant to the new, Title II regulations, we found that, different AI engines will do a better job than others, depending on the file type, depending on, the quality of, say, if it's a PDF that's been scanned in, everything always reacts differently. So you just have to kind of try, multiple tools, whether they're, AI tools. We're also kind of talking about the accessibility checkers in, all the different in the Microsoft products, in Acrobat. You have to kind of rely on multiple, checkers and tools to, get as far as you can, as close to 100% accessible as possible. So another thing we obviously use at Purdue is AI assisted captioning for video content. And so our particular instance of Brightspace, we have Kaltura as our video platform, and we have it set up to where upon upload, all of our videos will automatically get captioning. And so this does save a lot of time and obviously money for faculty and staff. Just a note that this automated captioning is improving all of the time. It used to not be as good, but sometimes now and again, we're very surprised with the accuracy level that it'll get, even with very specific terminology for specific courses. And then the third bullet point here, how we use AI to help. So this is kind of more like, I guess you could say pedagogy related, but using AI to kind of help create multiple modalities of course materials. And so we were talking about the principles of UDL earlier, and this is just you can use AI to help ideate, like come up with like brainstorm different versions of assignments. AI is definitely very helpful for kind of working through a lot of that stuff as well.
And on a related note, I'm going to talk a little bit about some practical strategies for creating accessible content, specifically in Brightspace. Now, something to note when you're trying to make your content more accessible and yeah, UDL friendly is that web pages or HTML built content is going to probably be the most accessible way to share information. So, if it is possible to build content into Brightspace directly as opposed to attaching documents, that is going to be much more accessible, especially for individuals using screen readers. So that is what we would recommend based on what we've learned. And there are several tools that are built into Brightspace that can make that easier for you. For example, Creator Plus, which our institution does have, is a great tool. It can help make creating really appealing looking content and interactive content, and it helps you do it directly into Brightspace. A lot of our faculty, I think, like to default to just attaching like a document or something to a page and not really putting anything there with it. But this is a much better way to do it and much more friendly with universal design for learning so that all the content's right there. They're not having to try and navigate into other places. So that is definitely something we would recommend. And in fact, AI has proven to be very helpful. So let's say you don't have Creator Plus, you can actually use a generative AI to help generate the HTML code that you need to make an interactive element. So you can kind of describe what you're hoping to build in Brightspace to a generative AI tool. It will generate the code. You can even tell it like the LMS, everything. And it'll help you generate the code, and then you can copy and paste that code back into Brightspace, and then it kind of helps you build that element directly into the tool. We've tested this out. In fact, someone within one of the teams within Teaching and Learning Technologies has offered a session on that, and we can share that with the resources later if you're interested in learning more about that. But it's definitely one great way to use AI, and again, it can help with accessibility in your course as well. Um, Another thing to note is there are several accessibility tools that are built directly into Brightspace, which can make it a much easier to remediate your content. So our institution has just added Usia Panorama into our Brightspace instance. Brightspace, I know, or D2L also offers Accessibility Plus. I know there are other tools that institutions may use. But if you don't have one already, we can say that having one built in can make it much easier because instead of needing to go into Word, PowerPoint, Excel, all these different document programs, then you can just try to remediate most of it right directly into Brightspace. Some accessibility tools may not be able to remediate every document that's in Brightspace, but it can definitely remediate several of them and make that process much easier. It can also help with adding alternative text to any images you happen to have. And Brightspace, I do believe, has a way to use AI that you can get some alternative text automatically generated for you. However, we will also note that generative AI tools are particularly good at generating alt text or long descriptions. So if you feel like you have a particularly complex image, using generative AI to generate that will also be pretty beneficial. And that's one of the best accessibility tasks that we've found to use with generative AI. And that is all we have for our presentation. So thank you so much for watching and listening. And as I said before, we will share some resources with you. If you'd like to check out our AI Bytes page, learn a little bit more about some other things we've done with AI in the past, feel free to check that out. Thank you very much.